So you can't just dip in and out. It's about sticking with it and knowing that you've got to kiss a few frogs along the way before you find the one that turns into the perfect opportunity.
If you're a small brand, you should be thinking, who can I partner with? Who do I not compete with? Who exists in the same space? And who can help me, build that kind of more brand recognition and awareness that I need.
So today we're talking to Gretta Fitzpatrick, who is the head of SMB for Europe for Wellhub, which was formerly Gympass. That's an employee benefits business that they design and pull together wellness packages for businesses around the globe. Really exciting business that's scaling fast, but Gretta's really interesting because she comes at it from a revenue generating point of view. So if you're a marketing leader, if you're just listening out of interest because this is such a good conversation, you're going to find out about how Gretta helps run a business like that, how she drives revenue, the importance of partnerships and how you can leverage partnership working in your own marketing and business strategy. We're also going to talk about people, which is one of our favorite subjects, and how we actually get the best from each other in relationships, especially that very popular topic on the UnEDited conversation, sales and marketing coming together. So we're also going to touch on a bunch of other stuff from Louie's lightning round, as I mentioned earlier. But if you're ready to get going, you know the rules by now. Sit back, relax, and let's get ready for another unedited conversation. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the UnEDited podcast with me, Ed Gould. Thanks for everyone that's been getting in contact about what we've been doing so far. I am just back from holiday, hence the shirt, if you're watching it, if you're listening to it. Dear listener, check out my shirt, find it on YouTube and other channels. So today we're talking to someone called Gretta, and as is the normal way, it's not for me to do the intro. Gretta Fitzpatrick, welcome to the Black Box Studio.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to meet you, Ed, and love the shirt.
Hey, that's the right thing. We kind of coordinated as well. I mean, this isn't a fashion pod, definitely not. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk to you about because it comes down to a lot of things around employee benefit, the balance between the tension between sales, revenue generating and brand, and a bunch of other stuff. But why don't you kick off by telling us who you are, where you've come from, and what you do as a starter for 10?
Yeah, so I'm Gretta. I look after SMB revenue marketing at Wellhub. Wellhub are a wellness benefits company, so really targeting HR leaders and offering employees those holistic benefits, everything from gyms and studios, as well as other apps like Strava, Headspace, etc. So really, really good benefit for employees. I myself have worked in marketing, I think, for 12 or 13 years now. I actually took a very linear path. I don't think I told you. So I did my bachelor in business and then did another course in digital marketing. And now I work in marketing. So
Well, it's
definitely
a very traditional path. How dare you?
I know.
mean,
Very traditional.
we've had all on that. We've had people on here that are, the most academic marketeers in the world, through to people that their job before marketing was on a car lot.
Yes,
And now
that's what I
they're in
love.
charge. Now they're in charge of global marketing for major brands. So the journey can be different, but
Yes.
all of our journeys helps us teach us things. And I hope today we're gonna get into that. In terms of your journey through, have you always been in-house or have you been agency in-house? What's that sort of background been like?
Yeah, so I started my career agency side. So I've worked for small independent agencies who are very scrappy and have really amazing clients that are very much performance focused, to big, huge media network agencies, right, like WPP and Dentsu Aegis, who have all the processes in place and who have clients who have very clear SLAs, etc. Right? So I've seen kind of the full spectrum, and within that, really love my time at agency because it really helped me build all those technical skills that were really important to kind of the building blocks of understanding the full channel mix, right? And yeah, so I moved in-house, I think after 5 years of being at agency. Really to get closer to the brand. I don't know if you have had other people on the podcast, but very much at agency side, you're very siloed sometimes and you don't get to see what's happening on the revenue side or what new things are coming out of the company. And you can be on the back foot just in terms of brand, creative, performance campaigns, everything. So yeah.
And when you've come to it, were you a planner, marketeer? How would you describe? Are you an analytical person, a creative person? What's been your journey on that side of things?
Yeah, so on agency side, I was working more on the activation side, so setting up the campaigns and really seeing what's working from a I'm stumbling over my words today, perspective, and really focusing on, what drives, revenue, what drives the brand activations or whatever KPI we're focused on. I hate to admit it, but I've spent millions on advertising.
Hey,
And
listen, as a creative director, I love to hear someone that's spent millions on advertising. Long may it keep
yeah,
going.
yeah.
It makes work for me. So yeah, it's good.
But
And it didn't work.
sometimes it's not
Hey,
very effective. What can I say?
there's a great, well, one of the, I think it's out now. Louie, where's Louie in the dark somewhere? Is Frederick Boyson's podcast out? Give me a shot. He shouted no. So there's one coming up from a guy called Frederick Boyson that spent, he was probably Facebook's biggest spender in the early days. And then he went wonderfully bust. It's a great story because he was just hammering money into Facebook, looking at the stats that obviously Facebook were giving you.
Yes.
And obviously, and don't sue me, Facebook, but maybe those stats were slightly inflated in some
Yes.
ways and not quite. And what he worked out is you really have to reevaluate advertising value, and he has something called ROAM. So if you haven't listened to this or you're listening to this now, go back to season 1 because we're in season 2 now, and look for Frederick Boyson, a really interesting pod about how you really evaluate advertising spend. But it's not about him; it's about you today. So I love the fact you've been in small, scrappy agencies, and I didn't twitch too much as you were saying that, through to the big guys. And you'd sort of described the difference there, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but as you've done both, which did you prefer and why? Or is it grass is always greener and there's benefits in both? Or what's your take on that?
I think the grass is always greener, truly. So I started working in Ireland. I'm from Ireland, and I really saw, I worked at pretty big network agency. And even though it was a huge network agency, when I went to London and started working with other agencies, I saw that actually, Ireland was a bit behind. We don't have, the most amazing kind of setup. We're not getting kind of those client insights at scale. And I think it just really depends on your positioning, like where you are in the world, who you work for, and what opportunities are presented, right? But I love scrappy, so I love building, and I really enjoy kind of getting under the weeds of everything and really figuring out how can we align everything process wise, because that then leverages you in order to focus on the
Yeah.
bigger picture, right?
Okay, so we've got a picture of you. You've come over from Ireland, looking for the wondrous opportunities in London. You found a bunch of highly creative or energetic, scrappy agencies. You keep saying scrappy. Probably they weren't all like that. But you jumped ship anyway, and you turned, I think the expression is gamekeeper turned poacher, or poacher turned gamekeeper, perhaps, one way or the other. And you've gone in-house with Wellhub, which is a really exciting brand. People listening may be aware of what it was called before. So can you give us a bit of history about Wellhub, why it exists, what it was before, and just a couple of minutes on that?
Yeah, for sure. So Wellhub started in 2012. It is Brazilian company, so started there. It's grown internationally to the US and obviously Europe. They've had phenomenal growth. So they started actually as a B2C company and very quickly realized that actually there's an opportunity on the B2B side. A lot of HR directors were struggling to kind of meet that needs of offering gym passes essentially to their employees.
in a flexible way where you could go to
Yeah.
any gym rather than just doing a deal with
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
local
yeah.
gym. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, rather than getting, just into one gym or having to sign 20 plus deals with, a range of gyms to keep your employees happy, we were taking that burden for the employer. And during COVID, the company pivoted a lot because obviously gyms were closed.
And it was called Gympass then, and that was a brand I was aware of at that
Yes.
stage. So Gympass was fairly well established, I would say, at that point. But it was a
Yeah.
big pivot
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
like you said, who's going to a gym in a mask? it's
yeah.
not. It's not really working, is it?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. So as we transitioned, we all transitioned throughout the pandemic. So did the company. They really built out their offering on the well-being side. So that's everything from apps such as Strava, very fitness focused, to apps such as Pregnancy Plus, which meet, more specialized well-being categories, as well as, mental health and nutrition. So I love it because you can get everything in one package,
that's
right?
it.
So whether you fancy working out one day or meditating the next, you can meet your needs whatever way possible. And I think it's really great because there's actually a growing need for this among, younger demographics, but also every demographic. People want this. They want to look after their health, and they, you know, HR leaders see the value of providing this to their employees, not only because it's a great benefit, but because it lowers absenteeism. You get higher productivity from your staff. If your staff are happy and healthy, they tend to stay with you longer as well, and you have less turnover
Mm.
as well.
And in terms of your remit and what you've been brought in to do, can you tell it? So you've been brought in on a revenue generating side, but can you tell us a bit about how they briefed you when you came in? You saw the opportunity. What mission did they sell you on, and what have you got your teeth into, and what are you there to do?
Yeah, so the SMB side of the business, which is what I look after in Europe, it has grown quite a lot, and we're seeing really, really tangible growth from businesses that want to onboard this product. And, from the briefing stage, everybody is super excited, and everybody is a wellness, specialist, or, they're really, really into it at Wellhub. And they wanted somebody to come in who really understands and wants to align the sales and marketing function and really help kind of get the most out of it. So I felt like that was a really great opportunity, and using all my skills from, channel marketing, more strategic, working in a startup and scale up at my last business, to try channel and put that together. And some of the things I've been working on is, in a B2B business, you're looking at, who's signing up, are they churning, why are people staying with us, and, how do we connect that back? And, the sales leaders at the org are absolutely fantastic. They're providing, insights. Here's what worked in 2024. We don't know if it's going to work for
Mm.
2025, right? But having that strategic kind of get together and alignment is really helpful to try and patch everything together.
So you're covering Europe, um, and the target is what type of businesses are you going after? Just so we can sort of consider it. I know you said SMB, but it's a massive gamut there. So where's the sweet
Yeah.
spot for you? I mean, I know you don't want to get into clients specifically, but broadly, if you give us a sort of idea of the scale or what your really sweet spot would be for this proposition.
Yeah, for sure. It's so interesting because I've had so many conversations about this internally, and I've struggled to understand who exactly are our customer because it's been very defined at other organizations I've worked in. But actually at Wellhub, it's across the scale. There's very few companies that this doesn't apply to.
Because there's a sliding scale of charge, so it's accessible for you at
Yes.
different levels, or
Yeah, exactly. And also it's you can, if you're a micro business, if you're a small business, if you're medium, if you're enterprise, you want to, maximize your staff. So it fits across every single kind of business case. And also in terms of segments and industries, it's applicable to almost all.
So here's me with my agency hat on. Sounds like a hell of a big brief.
I know, yeah.
So, in our worlds as marketeers and business people, you sort of go, well, I could do everything.
Yes.
When you think about your so you've sat down and you've had enough time with your feet under the desk now, I'm sure, to think about, okay, this is what I think is what I'm going to go after in the direction. How do you focus down your thinking and your strategy to achieve? I'm sure you've got steep revenue targets, very specific ones. You could get 1 million tiny businesses or 1,000 huge businesses. How do you sort of square that away, and how do you guys talk about that internally? Is the goal
Yeah.
purely revenue, and therefore we put all of our marketing pounds into that direction, or is there an advantage of spreading it wider in Europe? How do you work on that, and what's your take on that?
hmm Yeah, so right now I'm really focused on that medium segment because that will optimize, obviously, the marketing, engine, but also the sales engine. Because, if our sales team are working on medium deals and pushing those through, it will make it easier for them and they won't be so stressed looking after, 20 different micro clients, right?
And it's a problem that we face in any sort of, especially an
Yeah.
agency. You sort of say, well, I love all my little clients where I've got so much say in it, but then I can work with a massive client where it might be a much smaller part of their
Yeah. Yeah.
time, but I can tick other boxes there and I can do work that I couldn't do in another way.
Yeah.
And it changes, the
Yeah.
wind can change overnight, and suddenly the sales boss comes in and goes, we're hammering this segment now. Have you found that connection? Because one of the big things when we always have a bit of a pre-call, listeners, where we discuss what these people are sort of thinking about. And one of the things that came out in our pre-call with Greta was this sort of, and it's something we've heard a lot of, this connection and this tension between sales and marketing, how you optimize the connection and align. And actually, we've just finished a report called the Marketing Forecast that we run each year, and we talked to about 300 different leaders in marketing, and it was the number one priority for about 48%. I've got the stat sat somewhere, but I'll get it wrong. We'll put it in the show notes because I can't read the notes. But for about half of all of our leaders, they thought that one of their biggest challenges and biggest priorities to get right was this alignment.
Yes.
One of the observations that we've had from our strategists is that might be because now more than ever revenue is tight. It's harder, and that's really important. It's always been something on the agenda, but it seems to have gone up. How have you started, apart from they're great guys, I'm great guys, and we all get on and all this sort of stuff, what sort of plans do you put in place, and what ways do you work to try and keep that alignment and get the most from each other?
Yeah, I love this question because it is quite difficult. I think there's competing priorities across the organization, and it's very difficult to create the space for this work. And what I would say, one thing that I have started doing is setting up a little kind of almost like a huddle every
Okay.
month. So it's not just me that's involved, it's everybody across channels, so they can hear directly from the sales leader, what's working, what's not working, what is the feedback from literally the ground, right? And how can we use that MQL feedback as well? So we're processing a lot of leads, which are then MQLing, but then from that perspective, we
Do
almost
they
don't
go
see,
anywhere?
we don't see what happens,
I
right?
think it's a really good point you're making.
Yeah, and
Oh, we've done an MQL. You said you needed
Job
50
done.
MQLs. I don't care what happens next.
Yes.
Is a pretty short-sighted. You're never gonna win the sales guys over that way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the sales guys are never going to win the marketing team over if they're constantly going, "We're selling, but we're not going to tell you why we're selling or how we're." So, do you find those huddles of people? Is it new? Was it a shock to people? Do they like it? What was the uptake when you started doing that?
Yeah, they really love it. They're starting to see connections, what's working, what's not working. One thing the sales they do on the sales side is they send out a survey before they actually book a meeting with somebody. So before somebody goes for that discovery call, And there are some insights in this, almost survey or quiz that they send out that actually are super valuable for marketing, but we never knew that
They
we could
existed or
access
you could get
it,
it.
right? And it seems so simple, but it's one of the things that, really came out of it. And now, on the CRM side, we can leverage it and we can use this information. So, for example, we know that people are really, really, focused on this well being or women's category. If we know that, I mean, this is where we can help prospects and we can help translate what is the ROI for that for your organization and how do they best position it to their leaders, right? So it really is kind of almost de-risking it for HR leaders so they can understand and they can help themselves.
It's also, which is, it sounds a simple statement, but it doesn't always happen, especially in larger organizations.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Just listening to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the solutions to the problems that C-suite down, they pass down, and then the next level pass down again, and then someone gets kicked in the arse at the, but most of those can be solved by talking to someone else in the business. But often in larger corporate businesses, it becomes quite siloed,
100%.
and
Yeah.
so a great technique is, as
Mm.
you've just said, is breaking that down with huddles and events that put different people together. I love just crashing people together who shouldn't be together, and you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what happens. And a big part of the way we work, which has the sort of short, the catchphrase of "make it connect," is people.
Yes.
Often we as a facilitator for creating good ideas, we can't do it without listening to you, the sales guy, the photocopy guy, like whoever's in the
Yeah.
all the way up. So crashing them together, trying to make them find the alignment is key.
Mm.
You mentioned tech stack. It's a hugely exciting subject for me. I love tech stack as a creative director because, you're smiling, going, he's joking. I'm not, because it's so fundamental to our relationships and staying
Yeah.
close. That CRM piece keeps us close to that customer. If you've got that survey result in there and you ask me to do a campaign, I would look at the survey result and go, I can see they're more interested in this subject. So let's lean
Mm-hmm.
in. Obvious in hindsight, hard
Yeah.
to do up front. So, Wellhub, how does that tech stack work? Does everyone have access to it? Are you responsible for MQLs through to SQLs? Are you seeing those things happening? How does it work for you guys?
Yeah, I think it will change over time, right? And as we evolve, things will change. But right now, yeah, we have access. Also on the sales side, a lot of our sales team have access as well to the marketing side, so they can see what's happening if ever I send them a link or they want to see how everything goes through the funnel, especially when they reject leads, right? There's a whole process around, oh, hey, you've rejected an opportunity and now it goes back through the flow, maybe because it was bad timing, etc. So setting up those controls, but also translating them to sales is hugely important because, I've experienced previously where sales hold on to, their opportunities. They don't want to close them. And they don't want to, yes, trigger that flow back because they don't really understand what happens. But in reality, what happens is that they get sent more marketing material and they don't need to worry about it. And hopefully they'll re engage and then come back to
So they go
them.
into a keep in touch with list,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
come back round
exactly.
another time.
Yeah.
And how many people are in your team out of interest? So how many people, so the function itself, which is for you revenue for Europe and from a marketing perspective, I assume, um, what do you have to work with?
Yeah, so we're really
Who, I should say who, they're people, they're humans with
yeah.
feelings. Sorry if you're watching.
No, really awesome people across the business. So we have I guess a little bit of a regional structure, and then we have a global team. So in terms of in the regional kind of sector that I sit in or segment rather, I manage one person directly, and then we work with everybody else to achieve our aim. So whether that's a landing page, whether
There's a
that's
core team that you'll
yeah.
resource. And what's the sort of marketing function in Wellhub look like? How many people? What sort of scale is it?
Yeah, so we have quite a few people. I believe it's around the 200 mark.
Okay.
So definitely that that is, made up of such diverse people because we're also servicing all of our partners, and our partners are very much, really a key part of the ecosystem because that is the likes of Better Gym, that is Nuffield Health, that is, Strava, Headspace, and
And
all
these
the
are
apps.
massive brands, arguably bigger than your
Exactly.
brand.
Yes, yes, yes,
Not even
exactly.
arguably.
Yeah.
Clearly, and that's not a that they're just very consumer. No,
Yes. Yeah,
so
yeah.
how do you leverage? Headspace is a brilliant piece of kit, really useful. I've valued it for a while as well, and I pass it on to different people. How do you leverage a relationship like that to achieve your goals without taking away from the development and the equity of the Wellhub brand?
Yeah, I think there's really great value in bringing it together. A lot of people, in this kind of wellness space are very passionate about what they do. And I think they are very willing to partner. It's just finding the time to partner. So in my last organization, I also did a lot of partner marketing as well. And I really tried to create a value proposition, right? So whether that's jumping on a webinar together, really helping showcase
Being
and
seen together, events.
cross pollinate your audiences so people really understand, oh, hey, this is what this company does, this is what the other one does. And actually, a lot of the time we end up in the buying cycle together for my last business. It's not the case for Wellhub, but it can be a really, really great model to really build that pipeline for sales.
It
And
can
then,
also be horrendous.
well, it
From
increases
experience,
complexity,
it
right?
increases complexity, and it's a topic that's very close to my heart because we do a lot of again around that sort of making it connect. A big part of our approach often is how can you leverage partnerships? How can you make bigger things happen by working together? And when it works, it's the most wonderful thing, and and everyone's high fiving. But there are times when it's really tough to get the value back from a partnership that maybe you expected, and you go into it
Mm.
going, "Well, it's good for us, and they're going to do." What would your top tips be for people, marketeers that are out there? They might be in medium-sized businesses. They don't have that marketing spend, so partnering up and aligning with another brand, great strategy.
Hmm.
What would your tips be? What would you say to them of how do you get the most out of that? And how should they approach those initial conversations to actually make sure it's a win-win rather than a win for the partner and you've done all the work?
Yes. I've thought about this quite a lot actually, because my last brand was a smaller brand and we were really trying to build our CRM database and create that pipeline for sales. Sometimes it's a win, sometimes it's not. And you kind of have to have a give and take mentality because if you're part of an ecosystem, well, sometimes you give more and then you get it back 2 years later. But it's okay, right? You're building your connections and you're building the brand equity. And yeah, it's not a line item, right? And maybe it should
That's
be,
that's a good point. So you
but
can't just dip in and out. It's about sticking with it and
yes,
knowing that you've got to kiss a few frogs along the way before you find the one that turns into the
yes.
perfect opportunity.
And I think also it's for me, like for a lot of, I think the business, it's not a line item, but at the end of the day, it should be, right? It's influenced pipeline, whether, we count it or not,
Mm,
but you are influencing it on the way to either, closing a sale or partnering with another brand who help you close
mm.
another sale together, right? And I think it's a really interesting business model. I think it has huge, immense value. I've definitely seen that at my last company. And I think more brands need to think about that. If you're a small brand, you should be thinking, who can I partner with? Who do I not compete with? Who exists in the same space? And who can help me, build that kind of more brand recognition and awareness
Do,
that I need?
do you think I'm shooting the breeze here? I don't. I'll be careful. But do you think there's something of the psychology of the marketing leader, egos, the business brand? Do you think there's more examples of good partnership working if you look into the third sector and you look compared to because both from a need point of view and maybe from a personality point of view. I mean, if you've worked in agencies, you've worked with lots of different customers. So without pulling names or anything, my slightly longer tenure, I've worked with some brands that believe that the sun shines out of their what's-its and not, no one could ever aid them in what they're doing. Some of them aren't even here anymore, so they were wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas I've worked with others that have been really open to collaborate in that way, and it's something that I've seen working really nicely. But it is tricky. Do you think personalities have got something to do with that? Do you think as marketing leaders we need to be more open to say, I might not be able to do what they're asking me to do with the budget and with the knowledge I know, or do you just think it's something else completely?
I think, there is an element of potential ego, right? Depending on the business it is, right? I think sometimes it can be, we've never done this, so we don't know, and we don't
Fear.
want to. Yeah,
It's too
fear.
hard, maybe.
Yeah, and also it does increase the complexity. They might have a team who is really, really stretched. They might have, a target on their head, and normally it's an MQL target.
Yeah.
Well, I can sign up 10 of my mates if I want to get an MQL, right? At the end of the day, it's a vanity metric that may not drive the business forward over time, right? So I think it is really leaders just stepping outside and thinking, hey, is this actually building the brand? Does this actually make sense over time? And if
And
not,
certainly it aligns better in your sector. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I would argue that it's an obvious. I want to know what's in the box when I
Yeah.
buy Wellhub. What am I getting? And if
Yeah.
I see, it's a bit like Netflix, and all of these great different films that are in Netflix. They've got to keep reminding us
Yeah.
of that. How much work from a retention point of view, or maybe this is a different team, so and if it is, that's fine. But how much work goes on to keep reminding? I guess there's the end user and there's the business that you've got to communicate with. So how much effort from your marketing side or marketing spend from Wellhub goes into that retention piece and reminding and getting people to use the benefits versus
Yeah.
getting them to sign up in the first place?
Yeah, it's definitely a Wellhub. They do this exceptionally well. They definitely spend a lot of time on that retention piece. It's not part of my particular remit, but definitely, it's a really core component of the product. So getting people in is step one, but we want people to use it. And we do see that, employees absolutely love Wellhub, and they really do use it really, really frequently. So there is a good kind of engagement piece, but also there's an engagement from, understanding, what new partners we have and how you leverage them as well.
We're talking about the sales team and their survey. Great idea. Pull data from, of course, it's a great idea. Pull data from the ones that said yes, no, and everything in between to steer your marketing. From the individual user, do you have the same access to that data? Does that become part of your strategy of how you sell to the next segment?
I would love to see more insights around this and kind of help bake that in and, unlock those insights. I think we do have tons of
You've
insights.
got tons of it's how you
It's just-
interpret it, isn't it? And
and
dig into
taking
it.
and taking the time as well,
Yeah.
right? It can be really, really confusing about where to spend your time as well. And I think, obviously we should always look to our customer base in steering the rest of our marketing. But I think, especially in other businesses I've worked in, unlocking those insights has actually been quite difficult.
And finding enough time then to do
Yeah.
anything with them. Okay, we're going to come back onto that in a second. But as I warned you earlier, this season 2 of the UnEDited podcast, we've got a new feature. Louie, who lurks in the background of the Black Box Studios here in Southampton on the south coast of the UK, has come up with Louie's lightning round. I don't know what's going to happen now.
I'm scared.
I'm terrified. But let's give it a go. And I've got to press this button. And then what color after that, Louis? Blue, he says to us through the darkness.
No no time to think. No messing around. Get your answers ready. It's Louie's lightning round.
Wow. Okay. So nice jingle, Louie. Let's go for the first one.
What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
What's the worst advice you've been given? Okay. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea. What is the worst advice I've ever been given? I don't know. Oh my God,
It's a
I'm
tough
stumped.
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll give it a go. I once was advised to not leave a room until I got paid.
Oh.
So, so I don't know if I've told this story before on this pod. If I have, I'm sorry for boring everyone. But yeah, there was an outstanding bill, and someone said, "Well, what I did is I just sat in the room until they paid me." So I tried to do that, and the client just left the room and left the building, and I got left there, and we never got paid. So that didn't quite work out. Maybe a more calmer way of dealing with that situation would have been better. But yeah, I guess it's a tricky one because you don't want to out anyone who've given you bad advice.
Yes.
But perhaps we flip it. Can you remember a really great piece of advice someone's given you that you use today?
Really great piece of advice is probably, yeah, just be willing to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty, because
Get it done.
at the end of the day, it can be a really great learning experience, right? And I always think if you're close to the execution and you really understand what happens for X, Y, and Z person, then you truly understand, right? You can actually leverage and grow and, almost
I
lead better, right?
Can't agree more. I want to talk from experience, not just from ego. And the only way you can do that is try, fail, have a go. I think that's quite an agency sort of mentality there, because often we're having to do things that maybe we don't know how to do. And I'm not sharing any secrets there. Agencies will often say, I'll find a solution for that. And it gives you the opportunity to bring other people in. I mean, with my agency hat on, we have something called The Collective, which is brilliant experts from around the world that are very specific. Bring someone in that you're not used to working with, work with them on the problem, roll up your sleeves, be the person that delivers it, and you'll take huge value from that ongoing,
definitely.
for sure. I found that the grass is always greener, and there's benefits and pros and cons in both sides. But often our friends who've gone through a very corporate elevation structure, they're sent on a journey through that corporate structure.
Yeah.
And for me as a creative, when we have our best ideas, it's because we're taking out of our normal day to day.
You're not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yes, exactly. And you don't want the Kool-Aid every day. And if you try something else, suddenly an idea comes from that. And what you've just described, I think, is part of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So put your hand up for something you don't know tomorrow. See what happens.
I know.
Okay, let's go for number 2. Louie, here we go.
You can have a drink with anyone, alive or dead. Who would it be?
Wow, these are random. Okay. If you could have a drink with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be?
I think it would be Stephen Bartlett. I think he's
Oh.
doing. I know it's a little bit
Well, I
like
don't
he's
mind.
running a podcast.
It's not in the same league.
I know.
This is far better.
I know, because there
Why
must be.
Stephen Bartlett? I think he divides opinion now, but go
He
for
does
it.
divide opinion.
Yeah,
now,
go
yes.
for it. I'm not that drawn either way, by the way. Just in case he's watching and wants to invite either of us on, Why do you like that? Just from the amount of conversations he's had and what he's achieved?
Exactly. He's achieved so much for his age. Like he's literally like skyrocketed, right? And he's had conversations with so many different people from, different sectors. Everything, from Michelle Obama, I think I saw the other
amazing.
day.
And I think anyone that tells you PR is dead, point towards Stephen Bartlett and say, is
Yeah.
it? Because we are believing a lot. That's a great example of publicity, self-promotion, and he's achieved so much, but he's lent into it and he's made sure we understand it. And I think it's a great lesson to everyone achieves things, but how often do we make something out of it?
Yes.
And I think that he deserves everything he's got, and he's making sure that we know what that is.
Yeah.
Good on him. Okay, the last in Louie's lightning round.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, this is a good one, actually. I think I
Oh,
would.
well done, Louie. You got a thumbs up there.
I think it would be to take more risks. I think growing up, I kind of come from, I guess, a more working class background. I got all the grants to go to university, which I'm super, super grateful for. But because of my upbringing, I was so scared to take risks. So I had to almost be given permission. It was like, oh my goodness, like, it was like, can I do this? And in my early career, I really relied on, bosses to give me permission to do things.
Rather than
And
just making the decision and trying it and going for it.
yes, and I had a really awesome boss when I was working at Dentsuiges actually, and he really encouraged me to really own what I'm presenting, and he threw me in front of clients and
This is all we want. As you know, it's one of the hardest things of hiring people, and you're now hiring people, I assume. You've got someone that is
yes,
working directly under you, and you've got to think, how do I get the best out of them?
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
other flip side of that is, especially in our world, we talk about this a lot, is we just want people to have ownership and accountability and take that risk and go for it. Because if the boss is always asking the question, you're not adding anything hiring new people. I want to hire new
Exactly.
people that have a different view and bring something new to the party. So if you're sat there doing what your
Mm.
boss says all the time, great. But what could you do differently, and how could you step out of your comfort zone and do that? I think it's the step towards becoming a marketing leader rather
Yeah.
than a doer. You're actually
Yes.
thinking about why, and you've got self questioning of what can I add to this,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly you realize, oh, I can add a lot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love people who are, motivated, even if they don't know the correct path, right? Or if they just come and ask questions, I'll give them all my time, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure it's the same for you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
want people who are,
Well, there's an ego bit in that
curious.
as well, isn't there? It's like, oh God, someone's asking me how to do something great. But more often than not, I'm saying, okay, well, here's different ways, but I'm
Yeah,
crying out for people always. And we've got great people I
yeah,
work with here and in the client partners, but you're facilitating them to help make that decision and them to take that half the time. And the other half of the time, people literally want from me, they just want the answer. So
yeah.
but I found as I've got older, I need all those people around me leading and taking that view as well to keep me on my toes and keep us pushing forward. So I think
Yeah,
that's a
it's
great bit
great.
of advice.
Yeah.
I didn't say who I would have a drink with, alive or
Who
dead.
would you have a drink
Oliver
with?
Reed,
Oh, wow.
because he
Okay.
was an absolute alcoholic. No, he was. I would love to have met him. Anyway, Louis. Well done on your lightning round, mate. That was
Really good.
absolutely excellent. 2 stars. You get paid this month. Well done. Um, we're going to round off the conversation, really, just talking about really where the future's going for marketing for you and how you're feeling about how we navigate some of these pressures. And when we were talking earlier, any marketeer, I'm trying not to say AI too much because
Mm.
I've just got.
ChatGPT will just
Yeah, I'll get
power up and
ChatGPT to do it. Is this even me anymore? Have I just built an AI? So that's one of the pressures. The economy's a pressure. Corporate shifting of strategies a pressure. But I was interested to talk about how you navigate all of those pressures and where you see the future of marketing going, and what you're thinking about what's going to happen next. And it's a tough. If someone asked me, I'd have to really think about it. But have you got a view on that?
I think right now it's really tough because we're really living through a different age, right? We're in the middle of an AI age and we don't really know where we're going or where
It's
that
like when
might
someone
stop.
made the first printing press and it was going, "Oh, this looks interesting."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hope we don't stop wax tablets. I think we are at that beginning stage. It's a
Yeah.
shift, isn't it? So how are you feeling about it?
I think I see all the positives of AI. It's, it makes things so much quicker, so much easier. ChatGPT definitely does that for everybody. But also, I'm very conscious that sometimes it takes all of the thinking work out of it. So it's like, you put garbage in, you'll get garbage out, right? So you really need
Even
to
worse, you'll
be.
get someone else's garbage out.
Exactly. Yes. So you really need to be, conscious of how you're leveraging AI. Are you feeding it, customer testimonials and really information about your org? Or are you just like asking it very generic questions and kind of hoping for a $1 million marketing plan?
I mean, I think the reality is that the vast majority using it, yeah, they're just doing their emails and write me a script, write me a. I think
Yeah.
in the recent research that Carswell Gould commissioned, there was some interesting stats. There's obviously a schism and a bit of a thing. So I think it was 6 out of 10 marketeers were saying that one of their key issues at the moment was dealing with tech stack along with that AI challenge, because they've only just got over putting in marketing automation. Sure, Salesforce, all of our friends, all of these vendors, HubSpot, whatever, are baking in their own AI propositions.
Yeah.
But actually, the truth of this challenge is, how are you actually building out a tech stack a marketing tech stack that's able to empower your teams to do the types of things that you're being told are possible? So we're all being sent like these, amazing creatives that are being created.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're all thinking we can do that on a bit of chat GTP. And it's like, it's 15 different pieces of process that have gone into it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things is this observation that we're all desperate to try and work this out. The other thing that came out of it is this around this skills is 71% of the people that were responding said it's now an essential skill to have. However, they don't know how to develop that skill. There's a lot of courses that are cropping up. There's a lot of things you can pay money for as a business. I don't have the answers to these, but as marketeers, as in a community, we're trying to work through those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on top of all the other pressures. As marketing leaders, you're trying to think about that at the same time as the boss is saying, we're now skewing into this market. How do you work out that? What advice would you're in an organization that I'm sure is embracing some of those challenges and trying to work through them. Is there any advice or things that you can suggest people look to sort of navigating the complexities of a life in marketing at the moment?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. It's we're being asked to do a lot more, I think, than we were previously. And there's a lot of kind of pressure, especially if you're, in a funded company that has investors, right? I have this sense that, unfortunately, people think that AI can do everything, and that's not the reality, right? So definitely we need to take the human insights and, let AI help us leverage that and create things at scale. But there needs to be that kind of, input or kind of, best practice from the individuals in the organization in order to guide what's happening.
I mean, I can speak on first account that we're at the bottom end of that run.
Yeah.
And yeah, the expectation is, well, why should we pay you to do production work if, things like, so you have to go through yes, there are things it can do. For us for me, thinking about my own practice, that's had to evolve over 30 years, multiple times. Our first website we built was 1992. And I think you can find it on a Wayback Engine, but
That would be great. Yeah.
I'm not even sure that one even exists anymore. And a lot's changed, but this is another shift. And when
Yeah.
I think about my own practice and how I'm trying to think about that and what value we bring as marketeers, certainly strategic leaders, people that have seen firsthand if it actually works and doesn't work, that feel that you can bring to answering a challenge, that whites of the eyes conversation between the sales team and the marketing team,
Yeah.
that negotiation between resources and ability and capabilities, and that creative problem solving, that yes, you can get some of that, but I don't think, how can we develop our capabilities as individuals to harness those tools, just like we did when the printing press came out, just like we did when different software stacks came out. But it is certainly a scary time for a lot of people, and I think it's really interesting. So I'd point people towards resources that we'll put into the show notes as well, but there is a bunch of different training facilities that are starting to look at that. But in our evaluation of them, they're not that particularly far forward, and it's very specific sort of areas. So if you're an analytical marketeer or a media planner or a creative, you're really being pushed down a very specific alley now, and I think in that area.
For sure.
Okay, so what else are you hoping for? So we'll round off. What are your hopes for the future? You've been in Wellhub for a bit. Yes, there's lots of pressures. There always are. Yes, you're aligning this team. What are you hoping is going to happen, and what are you excited about over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the journey that I think Wellhub is going on. I think the wellness space is a super, super important space. It's something that benefits employees every single day, and we see that from our users. So that's definitely something from a personal perspective that I use daily as well. That is just super interesting for me. I think the product roadmap is super interesting, and we have a lot of things in development. So I can't wait for the company to announce some of those. I think it'll be really good. But definitely from a marketing standpoint, I'm really excited to see where AI actually does go. I think I have a lot of work on my side to not just use AI for daily copy changes or those kind of, in-channel specialisms, but also crafting the strategy and how do we leverage it on a more strategic scale. And yeah, I think it's all to play for. It's definitely an interesting space. And yeah,
It's times like these that careers are made. I
it
can tell
is,
you,
it is.
because you can really, things can shift heavily, and you can do really interesting pivoting. So it is exciting as well.
I think it is. There's actually that saying, there's more millionaires made in a recession, right? Is there going to be a saying now because we're in this AI?
Of course there is. You need crisis to create ingenuity sometimes.
Yes.
And let's see what happens, and long may we keep evolving as an industry, and as a people as well. But if people want to find out more about you, Wellhub, things that are going on, what would you recommend we do?
Yeah, you can definitely look me up on LinkedIn. So Gretta Fitzpatrick. I have a very unique name, so hopefully there's nobody else on there. And to check out Wellhub, wellhub.com, or search them on LinkedIn as well.
And what we'll do, guys, we'll put all of those links into the show notes as usual. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation with Gretta today. And all that is left for me to say is thank you for joining me on this unedited conversation.
No, thank you, Ed. It's been awesome. Thank you.
That's a wrap on another episode of Unedited. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. Find all of our updates on your favourite social media and podcast platforms. Just search for the Unedited Podcast.